Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm with Missy here on the bed, and this is my 2018 favorite books and my 2019 anticipated books. We are nearing the end of January 1st, 2019. Probably this will be up on the 2nd or something, but I didn't want to get too far into the new year without addressing this topic. I actually tried to film this a little earlier today, but the video didn't go so well. It was rambling incoherently for a long time, I think. So I came back with a new plan, hopefully a snappy plan, because I have several books to talk about, starting with 5 books that I read in 2018 that I want to mention here. So I'm going to give brief summaries, and then I'll state what I loved about them the most. So I have 3 top favorite books, but none of them are in nonfiction. Not surprising to me. But last year I did set myself a big new nonfiction goal, and I'm excited to go into reading more nonfiction in the future. So I thought I'd give a bit of a shout out to my favorite nonfiction history book and my favorite memoir. So I'll start with those 2. My favorite nonfiction history book that I read was When They'll Come For Us, We'll Be Gone, The Epic Struggle to Save Soviet Jewry by Gal Beckerman. It is a very extensive novel that covers several decades of 20th century history about Israel and American Jews banding together to try to get Soviet Jews out of the Soviet Union, and also about the efforts of Soviet Jews, particularly those who wanted to become more affiliated with Judaism, overcoming oppression and trying to get themselves out. And I think my favorite part of this, other than just how extensive it was to get a broader understanding of how this epoch really changed and defined the American Jewish community and made them more politically active, and also it changed the Israeli community by adding a whole influx of post-Soviet Jewish members to the community with their history and their politics and all of that. Next, I will talk about my favorite memoir that I read this year. It is If All the Seas Were Ink by Ilana Kurshan. Kurshan is a woman who several years ago was undergoing a bad divorce, and she decided as a means of therapy to read the Daf Yomi. Reading the Daf Yomi is reading a page of Talmud a day. It's a process that takes about 7 years. And so she did this process to learn more about herself and about the tradition. And in this book she documents, bits and pieces of what she learned and her life's trajectory for the next 7 years. And what I loved most about this is that I believe anyone who finds meaning in words and in reading would find something to get out of this. It's very relatable. And personally, just in a random specific moment, something she wrote about concerning her ex-husband and her and the ways they approached God made me think about, really for the first time, the way that I approach the idea of God. Okay, now I'm getting on to my official top 3, which I included in my literary newsletter. I'll link to my newsletter and all of my Goodreads reviews down below. My third favorite read of 2018 was He, She, and It by Marge Piercy. This is a 1991 cyberpunk novel. It takes place post-climate change. The world, what remains of it, is divided up into GovCorps, free cities, and then the GLOP, which is people living without protection for as long as they can, sort of a gang-run institution. But the main premise is that the main character is called from her GovCorp to her hometown, a Jewish free town of Tikva, to help an old friend fine-tune the emotions of a cyborg that obviously they're trying to make as human and sentient as possible. So the novel deals with all of these questions about if a robot basically can be sentient, and then there's more of a thriller plot about the woman's old GovCorp trying to, get a hold of this lucrative technology. But my favorite part of the novel was that Piercy didn't scrimp on the character development, and I thought the main character, Shira, her backstory, her relationships were very well defined and drew me in. I also really like what she did. There's a whole side plot parable with Shira's grandmother telling Yod, the cyborg, about the Golem story from Prague, trying to get him to understand his identity and existence. And so I really loved this lens of science fiction, this Jewish lens. Also going along with that is the idea of GovCorps being, highly bureaucratic and uniform and anti-minority, and so this was the type of dystopia that took the Jewish question into consideration. My second favorite read of 2018 was Shelter by Jun Yoon. It is the story of a 30-something Korean-American man who has to care for his parents after a brutal home invasion. There's a lot more issues at play, ranging from the fact that he and his wife can't really afford their own home anymore, but can't afford to sell it either. And also he has some really bad back history with his parents that he has to try to get over. It was a pretty depressing read, but what I loved is that the story was so propulsive. I was always so unhappy to be torn away from it. I thought the characters and the themes were very well done. And I like how it asked the question, low-hanging fruit that it is, what is shelter? And finally, my favorite read of 2018 is All I Love and Know by Judith Frank. This is the story of Matt and Daniel. They are a gay couple living in Cambridge, Massachusetts, who come to become guardians of Daniel's twin brother's children when Daniel's brother Joel and his wife are killed in a terrorist attack in Jerusalem. There's a lot going on in this novel, from ironing out the custody arrangements and getting the kids from one continent to another, about the aftermath of dealing with that trauma, about this formerly childless gay couple becoming parents, and of course all of the issues surrounding the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and issues of gay identity. What I loved most about this book is that even when I disagreed with characters, what they were going through felt really real to me. I had a particular soft spot for Daniel, the Jewish partner who was dealing with the loss of his brother and his past history with Zionism. He also had a tendency to shoot himself in the foot sometimes. The world of the story was very large and comprehensive and empathetic to the multitude of characters therein. Okay, and now I have 6 books that I've highlighted as anticipated reads for 2019. I'm very excited because I chose them from a variety of genres. Starting with the earliest release date just next week on January 8th, I have the literary fiction debut novel Sugar Run by Mesha Marin. This is a tale set in Southern America about a woman who gets out of prison and falls in love with another woman and tries to navigate life in a rural West Virginia community. All of these themes have already intrigued me, which is why I bought this book at the last Gaithersburg Book Festival. This is Cottonmouths by Kelly J. Ford. It is also about women and same-sex attraction and crime in the South of America. And so I decided to put Sugar Run on the list in part to shame myself to read both that one and this one. Next, coming out on January 15th, is the YA epic fantasy novel Echo North by Joanna Ruth Meyer. Early last year, I read Joanna Meyer's debut novel. This is Beneath the Haunting Sea. I really liked it, and I also have a little bit of a history with her because we were part of a NaNoWriMo Vidler community with each other once upon a time. So I thought I'd stick with her. I like her style and her focus on the arts, and Echo North is a retelling of the fairy tale East of the Sun, West of the Moon. Next, coming out on January 22nd, is The Kingdom of Copper by S.A. Chakraborty. This is her second novel in the adult fantasy series, the Daevabad trilogy. I first heard about it last year, I think it was, or something, with the first book. This is City of Brass. I was so attached to the cover from the offset and intrigued by the synopsis. And on top of all of that, everyone seems to love the book. So I'm putting this on my list as to encourage myself to start the series. Moving into February now, on February 5th, we have the historical nonfiction book Anti-Semitism Here and Now by Deborah Lipstadt. She is a historian whose work has intrigued me for a while, and now I have the chance to actually give her work a try in the book form. Plus, she is coming to Sixth and I, a local institution, in February to promote the book, so I'm going to go ahead and go to that too. On February 19th, we have a memoir, The Art of Leaving by Ayelet Sabari. Ayelet Sabari is a Yemeni-Israeli writer, and her short story collection The Best Place on Earth won the Sammy Rohr Prize for Emerging Jewish Writers a few years back. I read it, I really loved it, and so I'm intrigued to read more about her life. I don't actually remember the short stories all that well, but my Jewish book club just decided recently, they voted and decided they want to read the short story collection. So I'm going to do something that I've been thinking about doing for a few years now. I'm going to do a reread. I've been dragging my heels because, you know, there's so many books to get through and I'm going to die soon anyway, but rereading can bring back so many memories, and I want to feel more connected to Ayelet Sabari when I read her memoir, so this is going to happen. And finally, jumping to May, on May 16th, we have the adult science fiction book Atlas Alone by Emma Newman. This is her 4th book in her Planetfall series. I've read the first 2 so far, but just a year ago, this was me talking about book 3. The next book on my list comes out on April 17th, and it is another repeat author. This is Before Mars by Emma Newman. And yes, it is a book that is a standalone, but it's in the same universe as Planetfall. So yeah, now having this book on the list is double the pressure to finish this wonderful and engaging series. So that about covers it for me. Woo! I think that went a bit better. I guess I'll see you in editing. You can also find links to all of the Goodreads pages for these upcoming releases down below. I hope you're all having a wonderful start to 2019 and are excited about all of your reading goals and all of the possibilities that are coming up. Happy New Year, everybody. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.